Hi, everybody. It's Angel here. I just wanted to say hi as we get started. And I'm super happy that I'll be talking with Wendy today. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Hi there.
Hey Angel, how are you doing?
Fine. How are you?
I'm good. You look very sparkly. I like that look.
I'm playing with filters.
Yeah, no, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So there we go. So I'll try not to use too many today, but I'll probably just use one or two others.
No, that's cool. It's fun to mix it up.
There we go. Well, I want to first of all thank you for taking the time, Wendy. I know everyone's busy, and I know that you are super popular in the vegan travel world, and I thought it would be great to have you come on and talk to everybody. Even if they can't join live, they can watch the replay and just learn from what you're doing and all the interesting projects that you have.
Yeah, well, thanks Angel for inviting me to do this. It's great to finally see you, face to face and not just be commenting on each other's posts and sending messages back and forth. So it's almost like you're right here with me, which is about as close as we can get these
Exactly.
days.
I was going to say, especially with all of the travel restrictions nowadays. So, yes, definitely it's super to have you on the other side, to have you on my phone, basically.
Yeah.
So, I want to say hi to everyone who's coming on the live. And if you have questions or comments for Wendy as we go along, just put them down in the comment section below and she'll be happy to answer.
Yeah,
And
for
when,
sure.
Right. And I have pinned our topics on the bottom just to kind of follow along. I find that helpful. So I think we should just jump right in because we have loads of topics. So the first question for you is if you could please share your vegan journey, how you started, and how you ended up to where you are today, please.
Sure. So my journey starts more than 6 years ago, back in 2014. And I first heard about veganism and plant-based diets and nutrition around May of 2014. Somehow, I don't know how I found it, but I ended up listening to an online summit with John and Ocean Robbins. And so they had invited all of these speakers who I now know are very renowned, authorities in this space, but I had no idea who any of these people were at the time. And listen to what they had to say about nutrition, which was something that I was interested in at the time for health reasons. So I got into veganism through an interest in health. I wasn't having any major health problems of my own at that time, but I had just recently seen my father pass away from complications from type 1 diabetes, and he was in a really bad place for the last couple of months of his life. He was bedridden in the hospital, and I saw that happen and knew that I didn't want to end up that way. And so that's when I became more interested in learning about what I could do, what kind of lifestyle changes I could make, to make sure that I didn't end up that way and that I have a long and healthy life, as much as I can foresee that or do the best that I could to help that be a better outcome. So yeah, I got interested in plant-based nutrition. I did not think that I was going to go fully vegan. At that time, that sounded like a really extreme thing to me. I didn't know any vegans at the time. I had never met a vegan before. I was living in Geneva, Switzerland, which at least back then, was pretty conservative as far as, the cuisine goes. Lots of cheese,
Yeah.
as you might imagine. And yeah, vegan restaurants weren't really a thing. And so, yeah, I knew that my husband was not going to be into that if I suggested that we go vegan, and he's the one that does most of the cooking, or really all of the cooking in our house. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to go the whole way, but I can make some changes. And I heard this. I did. something called Vegan Before Six, VB6, which is actually the name of a book written by Mark Bittman. I never actually read the book, but I heard this phrase and it stuck in my head, and I thought, okay, well that sounds like something that I could maybe do. You know, I could just eat vegan for breakfast and for lunch, because I was working in an office at that point in my life, and I was bringing my lunch to work anyway. So I thought, okay, I can bring, you know, something vegan, and then I can just have whatever my husband makes for dinner. And so that's how it started. And then very quickly, I really didn't want to eat animal flesh at all anymore. So I went vegetarian. Was still having some eggs and dairy when he would make it, but the more I educated myself, and you know, not just about nutrition and health, but also about the environmental aspects, and more than anything about the animals and the horrible things that were happening to animals in not just the meat industries, but also the egg and dairy industries. And once I learned that, I couldn't unlearn it, and I came to the conclusion that I really had to be fully vegan if I was going to live in alignment with my own values. That was the only thing that made sense for me. So one of the biggest fears holding me back, this was a transition period of a few months. Like I said, I first heard about it in May when I listened to the summit, and then it was in September when I finally kind of took the plunge. And what happened was, one of the biggest fears that had been holding me back was that I thought that, excuse me, if I went vegan, that was going to ruin travel for me. I didn't know if it was possible to find vegan food in some of the places that I'd already been, and also some of the places that I still wanted to go. And travel was and still is a huge part of my life. So spoiler alert, it did not ruin travel. But, you know, I thought that I was going to have to make some major sacrifices and maybe not be able to go to some of those places on my list. And I didn't know if I was really willing to make that sacrifice. But I decided to give it a trial run. So my husband Nick and I had already booked a 3-week trip to Greece in September of that year. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can stay vegan for the whole 3 weeks that we're in Greece. And if I can do that, then, you know, maybe that means that vegan travel is possible, and we'll see what happens from there. So basically, the day that our plane landed in Athens, September 10th, 2014, that is the day that I celebrate every year as my veganiversary, because once I started, I never went back. And I was actually blown away about how easy it was and how many vegan dishes there were in traditional Greek cuisine that I had never heard of before. So it actually made the trip even better, and that has continued to this day. I honestly enjoy traveling even more now than I did before I was vegan, because it added so many different elements. You know, each trip is kind of like a treasure hunt, where I'm always out on the lookout, you know, for vegan restaurants or for local vegan dishes that are part of the cuisine. You too? Can you relate to that?
Totally. And you know what's funny is that when I go to certain cities, for example, I end up discovering neighborhoods that even locals don't know about, because again, I'm on the hunt. Like you said, it's like a treasure, and so I'm hunting for, like, you know, vegan dishes. And I recall once or twice I was in someone else's city, and I said, oh yeah, I was in such a neighborhood, and oh, I saw this monument and that da. And they're like, what? How do you know about that area? You know? And I'm like, well, there was a vegan restaurant and I just went there, and then I just walked around afterwards and took photos or whatever. So, you know, it really has, to me, added a totally new element to travel. And for me, it's kind of like when I go to a city or a town, I look for like museums, for example. And for me, like restaurants or cafes or whatever, you know, vegan offerings for me are like kind of like a museum, because it's like a whole new world, you know, and they're so unique, and I just love it.
Yeah, totally. Becoming vegan turned me into a foodie traveler, which is definitely not something that I was before. I really didn't pay attention to food. I would eat whatever was convenient, whatever was cheap. I ate a lot of fast food when I was on the road. And, you know, I never did any research to find out what were the best restaurants. I mean, I might look in the Lonely Planet and see which ones they recommended. This was years ago before we had all of the blogs and all of the other resources on the internet. So I've been traveling for a lot longer than I've been vegan. I've been doing this kind of nomadic or semi-nomadic lifestyle for all of my adult life, really. So yeah, food was not ever a priority for me for travel, and now it absolutely is. So, and I do actually learn more about the cuisine and about the local culture in general through its cuisine, but through a vegan lens. So people often think, oh, but you're going to be missing out on trying those local specialties, those local dishes. No, I don't. I probably try more than you do and learn more about the local cuisine than you do because I really dig into it. It's something that I really enjoy as part of the preparations for traveling. I love researching the local cuisine to find out what dishes might already be vegan or what kind of ingredients do they use. And yeah, I often end up trying things that most tourists would never have tried or never have heard of.
Yeah, and I love you know, because what you're getting at, I think underlying is like, well, which dishes are accidentally vegan? And
Yeah.
and that's what I love discovering as well. First of all, because I don't have to ask them to tweak it for me, and especially because I'm a very curious traveler, and I like to go to traditional local restaurants that may not even have a vegan menu, to be honest with you. But I love just being with the locals, kind of observing, well, how do they, you know, interact with each other, and what do they eat, you know? And so for me, a lot of times, again, I go to a local restaurant and I have to ask them to tweak it if they don't have anything, or I have to ask them, you know, remove the chicken, you know, no chicken, no meat, blah, 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 no eggs. And I just kind of then whittle it down to plants, you know, that kind of thing. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying. And I have found, I was a foodie before. I've always been a foodie since childhood, but to me, it's just ramped it up to a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that we both have that kind of, even though we probably came from very different starting points, like
Yeah.
food was just not a priority in my house at all when I was growing up. No one in my family
Really?
cooked. Yeah. Like I grew up on everything that I ate came out of a can or out of a cardboard box and went into the microwave or yeah, so I came from like not prioritizing food at all to suddenly it being a big part of my life and also a big part of what I enjoy about traveling.
Yes. I just want to pause and say hi to everyone who's joining. And if you have any questions for Wendy, you can pop them down in the comment section below and she'll be happy to answer. And meanwhile, that takes us to our next topic, which is your nomadic lifestyle, your vegan travel nomadic lifestyle. And I know you just mentioned you were traveling before you, you know, switched to a vegan lifestyle, but how did this all happen for you, the nomadic lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, I have been doing it, like I said, for pretty much all my adult life, more than 20 years now. I'm dating myself there, but
Ah, don't worry about it.
yeah, I grew up in the States, but I left there shortly after graduating from college, from university. Actually, I went to college in Florida, and then after graduating, I worked in Disney World for a few months in Florida.
Yeah.
And they had an exchange program with Disneyland France, with Disneyland Paris in France. And so I applied for that and got it. And that was, you know, my ticket to Europe as I saw it. I didn't really think that it was possible to live and work in Europe as an American. I've since learned that that's not true and that there are options available to people that a lot of people don't know about. So I am doing it now. I'm living in Lisbon, Portugal, and I have you know, legal residency here, and it'll be about another year and a half before I'll be able to apply for Portuguese citizenship,
Oh,
which I'm very excited about. And aren't you also based in Spain, Angel? Am I right about that?
no, but I was in Spain for quite a while, kind of on and off, in and out. And to be honest, I was planning to go back this year, but with everything going on, obviously that's not an option right now. But yes, I super love Madrid. Madrid is in the tippy top of my favorites. And so I have spent a lot of time in Madrid. That's the answer to the question.
Okay, because I have seen a lot of posts from you from Madrid, so I kind of
Yeah,
thought that you must have been living there or at least spending a lot of time there. And I was going to say, well, we're neighbors. We're,
yeah,
both on the Iberian Peninsula. But maybe we
yeah,
will soon.
yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Now the thing is that I'm still posting from photos of food from Madrid because I only like to post food once a day, and so I have a backlog of food that I enjoyed up until the beginning of this year when I left Madrid, and I'm nearing the tail end of my Madrid posts pretty soon, and so yeah, then I'll be switching to another city in my
Okay, well,
posts.
that's something to look forward to. I'll be
Yeah.
curious to see what the next city is.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So you got into your nomadic travel lifestyle basically, like you say, for your career. In other words, you decided, hey, I'm gonna, try to, make this work.
yeah, I mean, not so much for my career really, because the job with Disney was not. It was just a temporary job. I didn't really enjoy the job, and there wasn't a lot of career progression opportunities there. But for me, the main benefit was that it was an opportunity for me to go to Europe. At the time, I did not realize that that was going to be a permanent lifestyle change for me. I had a 6-month contract, and I was planning to go back and start a normal life. I had a boyfriend in the States, and I was going to get back and be with him. And yeah, none of that happened, which is for the best. Absolutely, he was not the right person for me. And so I extended the contract and then extended it again. Even though I did not enjoy the job, I loved the experience of living in France. And I was also in Disney, I was living kind of in housing that was provided by Disney for the foreign workers. So there were maybe 20 or so of us Americans, and there were some Canadians, and then there were loads of people from all over Europe, from all different countries, working together and also living together. And this was when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and it was just a big party every night. It was so much fun.
And you know what is so beautiful about you being in France, in Paris, is I feel like it's almost like the epicenter of Europe, because you can pivot to the north and the south and the east so easily. So I really think to me, it's pretty close to the ideal location.
Yeah, maybe so. I wasn't really taking advantage of that aspect of it very much when I was there, because I wasn't getting paid very much, and so I was being very careful with my money, and so I wasn't going off and doing weekend trips. I did that much later in life when my husband and I did settle down, actually for 6 years. That's the longest that we